How do you have coaching conversations with distribution employees? I'm Greg Schinkel, President of Unique Training and Development and Frontline Leadership Systems, and today we need to look at this idea of coaching conversations with distribution employees. Now, there's a number of myths that I think prevent frontline leaders from having these conversations. Myth number one is coaching conversations are only for disciplinary purposes. I mean, if I'm not writing the person up, why would I have a conversation with them? Kind of short-sighted. Myth number two is that they take a lot of time and energy, and it can be time consuming, but if you get in a good routine with your coaching conversations, you can save some time. They require a lot of paperwork. Well, not necessarily. It is a coaching conversation, so as long as you keep a few notes that you can refer to in the future, it doesn't have to be paperwork intensive. And it's only for managers. That's another myth, that only managers really need to have these coaching conversations. No, if you as the frontline supervisor can have them with your employees, you'll find that they're more engaged. And then finally, coaching conversations are intimidating. Well, if they're getting intimidating, chances are you're doing them in an accusational way and not a conversational way. So the fact is that employees who had little to no individual interaction with their supervisor were more likely to be disengaged, and those with twice the amount of time of one-on-one with their supervisor tended to be 67% less likely to be disengaged. So think about that those conversations can really increase your level of engagement, and what that does for you is it reduces turnover and increases retention, and then people are going to be looking on how they can grow their performance over time. So we had one young engineer. Now, we train lots of different people, production supervisors, but we also have engineers in our classes sometimes. And one young engineer shared with me that his frustration was that he really wanted some one-on-one time with his manager, the engineering manager, just to find out how he was doing on his assignments, what he could be doing to grow and develop and get even better over time. Unfortunately, when he went to his supervisor and said, "Hey, I'd really like some one-on-one time," his boss said, "Look, I'm really busy. Just assume that no news is good news and that you're doing fine, and if there's a problem, I'm going to come and talk to you." Well, that really disheartened the young engineer in the group because he said, "I really just want this touch base with my boss. It doesn't have to be very long. I just want to know, where do I stand? What could I do to become even better? And how do I grow in my career?" So I've got a few tips for you in terms of having these coaching conversations with distribution employees, quite frankly, with any employee in a production or operations environment. Tip number one is to schedule the time. You really will only have one-on-one time if you make it a priority in your calendar. And that means looking at your week and deciding how many of these short coaching conversations could I have on a given day, and what day of the week does it make sense, and what time of the day is it likely that I'm going to be able to free myself up for a 10 to 15 minute coaching conversation. And that's all it needs to be if you're doing them regularly enough, is just a short touch base with your employees one-on-one, gives them a chance to interact with you. Tip number two is to recap the achievements. A lot of people, they work every day, but they really don't know what they're actually achieving and what they're doing to win the day. So as the leader, recap some of the achievements, both for them as individuals, but also for the group as a whole, and that way they'll feel good about the progress that they're making. And then the third tip is to focus on strengthening rather than criticizing. A lot of times we go with, "Hey, here's what you're doing awesomely well, and then here's what you're not doing well." And I think if you framed it in this coaching conversation to be around strengthening, you'll be even more effective if you did this. You'd be even more reliable if you did this. And that way it's always positioned not with a "you're terrible at this," but you'd be even better if you strengthened in this area. So if you do those things, you make time for them, you focus on recapping the achievements so it's a positive conversation, and you frame all of your things that you need them to improve in the way of strengthening to make them more acceptable, you're going to find that these coaching conversations with distribution employees go way smoother than you ever thought was possible. And once you start doing them, your team is going to want to keep doing them because it makes them feel good, and you're going to see the results in terms of your productivity and performance. Now, once you've done a good job of doing coaching conversations, you're going to need to focus on some of your other leadership skills, and that's where our Frontline Leadership Program comes in. Whether you have us come on site and have that delivered for a group at your company exclusively, or you take part in one of our public workshops, which are done in person or virtual, or you can have our training delivered in this highly engaging format through our virtual training studio. And now there's even one more way that you can get access to our Frontline Leadership Program, and that's that's through the Frontline Leadership On Demand program. That's where you sign in at your desktop and you take the program and then you're given an assignment to apply it, and we measure the results on a continuous basis. So all of that, of course, starts with a conversation at our website, uniquedevelopment.com. And when you're there, why not just click on Book a Meeting, and we'll have a conversation, discussion about how we can be of benefit to you and your organization. We really want to help you build leadership excellence so that you can achieve organizational excellence and best ever performance.